It was a cold, foggy evening in the small town of Blackwood. The streets were empty, and the only sound was the distant ticking of the old clock tower. Detective James Carter sat in his dimly lit office, sipping on a cup of coffee. He was a tall man, with sharp eyes and a mind that could solve even the most complicated mysteries. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. A young woman, dressed in a black coat, stepped inside. Her face was pale, and her hands were trembling. "Detective Carter, I need your help," she said in a shaky voice. "Please, sit down," Carter said, pointing to the chair across from his desk. "What seems to be the problem?" The woman sat down and took a deep breath. "My name is Clara Bennett. My uncle, Mr. Edward Bennett, was found dead in his mansion last night. The police say it was a heart attack, but I know something is wrong. My uncle was a healthy man, and he would never leave his study in such a mess." Carter leaned forward, his interest piqued. "What kind of mess are we talking about?" Books were scattered everywhere, drawers were pulled out, and his safe was open, but nothing was stolen. The only thing missing was a small, crimson key that he always kept around his neck, Clara explained. "A crimson key?" Carter repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Do you know what it opens?" Clara shook her head. "No, but my uncle always said it was the key to his greatest secret. He never told anyone what it was." Carter stood up and grabbed his coat. "Let's go to the mansion. I need to see the scene for myself." The Bennett mansion was a grand, old building on the outskirts of town. It was surrounded by tall trees, and the fog made it look even more mysterious. Inside, the study was just as Clara had described. Books were thrown everywhere, and the safe was wide open. Carter examined the room carefully. He noticed that the window was slightly open, and there were muddy footprints on the carpet. "Someone broke in through the window," he said, pointing to the footprints. "But why would they leave everything behind and only take the key?" Clara looked around nervously. "I don't know, Detective. But my uncle was very protective of that key. He always said it was the most important thing he owned." Carter thought for a moment. "Is there anyone who might have wanted to harm your uncle? Any enemies or people who were close to him?" Clara hesitated. "Well, there's Mr. Harold Green. He was my uncle's business partner, but they had a falling out a few months ago. Harold was angry because my uncle refused to sell his share of the business." Carter nodded. "I think it's time we pay Mr. Green a visit." Harold Green lived in a small house near the town square. When Carter and Clara arrived, he was sitting in his living room, reading a newspaper. He looked surprised to see them. "Detective Carter, what brings you here?" Harold asked, trying to sound calm. "We're investigating the death of Mr. Edward Bennett," Carter said, watching Harold closely. "Do you know anything about a crimson key?" Harold's face turned pale. I don't know what you're talking about." Carter took a step closer. "Mr. Green, if you're hiding something, it's better to tell us now. Otherwise, things could get much worse for you." Harold sighed and put down the newspaper. "All right, I'll tell you the truth. Edward and I had a fight over the key. He said it was the key to a hidden treasure, but he wouldn't tell me where it was. I thought if I could get the key, I could find the treasure myself." "So, you broke into his study and took the key?" Carter asked. Harold shook his head. "No, I didn't take it. I went to the mansion last night, but when I got there, Edward was already dead. The key was gone, and the study was a mess. I panicked and ran away." Carter frowned. "If you didn't take the key, then who did?" Just then, Claire remembered something. "Detective, my uncle had a secret compartment in his desk. Maybe the key opens that. They rushed back to the mansion and searched the desk. After a few minutes, Carter found a small, hidden drawer. Inside was a letter addressed to Clara. Clara opened the letter and read it aloud. "Dear Clara, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer here. The crimson key is the key to my greatest secret. It opens a safe deposit box at the Blackwood Bank. Inside, you'll find everything you need to know about our family's legacy. Take care of it, and remember, the truth is always worth fighting for. Love, Uncle Edward." Carter smiled. "It seems your uncle wanted you to have the key all along. But someone else got to it first." Claire looked determined. "We have to find that key, Detective. It's the only way to uncover the truth." Carter nodded. "Don't worry, Claire. We'll find the key and solve this mystery, no matter what it takes." And with that, the hunt for the crimson key began.